It is 7:06 PM on Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. We're gonna open the committees meeting. We are running a bit late this evening due to technical difficulties. We are still under, or we put ourselves back under the COVID-19 rules for the meetings where people can attend remotely due to COVID, and all votes will require a roll call vote. With that, roll call.
I have committee members: Chris Samples,
Here.
John Talbot,
Here.
William Luxinger is absent, Nathan Miles,
Here.
Jen Christensen, here, Bill Motisi,
Here.
President Rick Worm,
Here,
Treasurer Brenda Onavini, here, I, Sandy Mazen here, Public Works Supervisor Brett Berge,
Here.
Engineer Matt Hansen.
Here.
I will make a motion to allow William Luxinger to attend remotely.
Second.
then makes a motion to allow William Luxinger to attend remotely. John seconds. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jen,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
and William's still absent.
All
William,
I'm here.
thank you.
right, roll call done, 7:07.
Can I pause for one moment? Because your microphones are not connected to the Zoom audio tonight, in order for those attending remotely to hear you, you have to reach this microphone right here. So please speak very loud.
Or just roll your chair up to it, one of the two.
It's like being in a family, it's like being a family reunion, just talk over everyone.
Nah.
All right, so we'll entertain a motion for the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the August 3rd, 2021 Committee of Committees minutes.
Second.
Then makes a motion to approve the August 3rd, 2021 committee meeting minutes. John seconds. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Not hearing any. Roll call, please.
Bill,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
William,
Yes,
Jen.
Yes.
Moving on to the officers tonight. Person that we have for Fitness Junction is not coming.
Yep.
So we'll move on to clerk.
First thing on in the agenda packet, you will, or in the board packet, you'll see that there are photos of some damage that occurred to the backside of Village Hall during the storms last week. So we obtained a quote to get them repaired. You'll see my gutter is now on my roof. And then if you scroll down to the second photo, you can see,
The face show. the
yeah,
south of the-
yep, it's, well,
The dryer.
the far right is actually the bat repair from last year that we can finally get rid of. So why they're coming out to fix one, just have them fix it all. So you'll notice the next thing in the packet is a quote to just have it all repaired. I'd like to move forward with that quote. It's under my spending limit, but I'm just coming to you guys as a courtesy.
What's the insurance pickup?
1,000, well, they pick up $1,250, so not necessarily worth that.
What's our deductible was, Sandy?
1,000.
Oh,
So again, I'm just asking that we just pay for it.
All right, we can claim that our rates go up.
Yeah.
No.
So,
yeah, that'll keep our claims down too, with the insurance company.
Yep.
Make the repair.
yeah. So
Yes.
I'll probably just toss it in the board packet for a formality next week. You'll see it on the consent agenda, but I need to get that repaired. So, and actually, if you go out back right now, because of the storms today and they didn't want it flopping around, they bent it down.
It was already bent down.
Oh, was it?
Moved it south.
Oh, I thought you guys had gone and done that. Oh, even better for us. So anyway, that's a priority for me. The second thing on the agenda is there were some changes to the rules for selling alcoholic beverages that the state made over the summer. What is in your board packet is simply just updating our ordinances to conform with what the state is now allowing with regards to sales via delivery and sales of individual cups of things to go. So does anybody have any questions on it?
A mixed drink.
A mixed drink. You can get a mixed drink to go.
You get the little travel mug with it.
I just get a take home box.
It is.
back in the day and
Yeah.
dump it in
Is
the-
there, if there's no questions on it, I'm gonna put it on the consent agenda for next week.
What's happening now? We can put alcohol in a cup and leave the property or just.
I believe it still has to be sealed. But you can buy mixed liquor to go.
Yeah, they tell you it has to be in a hard plastic cup. They have no plastic requirements, but you can get them.
The to-go thing is done recently, like margaritas in a
Yes.
pail or things of that nature, so I think this is applying to
It
those
was,
types of things.
because the state allowed that during COVID to assist with people with the sales for bars and restaurants.
Right.
And so now they've allowed it as an extended item. I believe it has a sunset of 2024. And so we just need to toss it into ours so that our restaurants can allow it as well.
Well, that will make it a little more easier for the alcoholic stuff to be dispensed and money for the village.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't really impact us. It's just increase in sales for them if they're able to sell it that way. But we just want to make sure that our ordinances match what the state law is.
Little bit.
Okay, throw that on the consent.
Yep, any questions? I'll put it on the consent. All right, and then the last thing under me, do you have my email with the sign? Sorry, I was busy trying to get the,
Yeah.
I was trying to get everything fixed. So I put in everybody's board pack, the sign park policy. I talked to you guys about the Stillman Valley Junior Tackle sign previously, and that was before I'd actually seen the sign. And so the sign itself, while Rick's looking it up, does
Make sure you send it.
say, I did send it to you and William.
There you go, signage.
Yeah, and then if you don't mind opening that up.
Must be done.
It is not. So as you'll see, the sign does say donated by Stillman Valley Home and Farm and Cox Crop Services. So before, when I discussed this with you, I was under the impression it just said Stillman Valley Junior Tackle.
That's free advertising.
That is free advertising, which is really what I came upon in comparison it to our park advertising policy. And so I guess I just need to know what to do. I need direction because now it is an advertisement in our park and we are allowing it to occur. But if Meridian Soccer came and said, hey, we want to put up a sign that says that, we'd absolutely say no. So now we're kind of at this crossroads here. To some extent, my gut reaction was tell them to wipe it out.
Well, it was Adobe Photoshop. It'd be a little easy.
I don't really have a problem with this. It's
Yeah, but it's gonna open up Pandora's box. for everybody else.
What's the sign
been out
there?
there for a long time.
I think
Not
it's
like that.
wood.
it hasn't.
It actually has not been up there a long
No,
time.
We haven't had a Stillman Valley Junior Tackle sign on the thing for a long time.
Not the donation.
I didn't say that. I'm saying,
Yeah.
they've had the sign on there for a long
Yeah.
time. The donation portion is just because somebody paid for the sign so they could have it say Stillman Valley Junior Tackle. I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah, my issue is kind of along with John's, is that Nathan is looking to start park advertisement as an additional form of revenue because it is available to us and it is a policy that we have in place. But then I run into this, and so I struggle with, how do we tell other people we want them to pay when they don't pay anything and get free advertisement over here on this side?
Well,
But technically, if they pay for the sign,
But we did, it's our,
Right,
I mean, it's our property,
Right.
so did they pay for the press box or did they pay for the
Hey,
sign?
Sandy,
you could
Yes.
charge them an advertising fee for that sign as is and it'd be done.
Oh, William.
William, go ahead.
we have ran into this in the past. Softball wanted signs on our dugouts, on our outfield fences. Certain organizations wanted to claim them as home fields, and we refused to allow that to happen. This is the exact same scenario, in my opinion. However, I do believe there's an agreement that allows them to put that sign up there. I'm sure it's an oversight. I would just let it ride it out this year and then let them know that they, can't advertise on our billboard. We have an advertising policy that pertains to the park.
Which would allow them to have it, they paid for that then, right?
Yes.
Well, just tell them that. Say next year, if you're gonna keep that up, you have to pay whatever our fee structure.
The
says
sign
you're
can
gonna
be
do.
there, just the last line.
And we'll be flexible enough to let them leave it on the press box.
I'm okay with that.
That's how I feel.
Or the option would be to cover the advertising portion of it.
Yeah.
correct?
Well, I think that's what
Well-
John is saying. So leave it for this year, but next year you either
You
pay
got
for
an option.
advertising or you cover
Or you
that part.
cover-
Well, we need to let them know this year though.
Oh, I will. I'll do a letter.
That
to
way
them.
it's not, hey, well, we have.
I
last year, we
mean,
didn't say anything.
It's
Last
nothing
minute.
personal, it's just it opens it up to
It
many
is.
other
I agree.
organizations to.
And that's really where I'm at, is I try to make, I'm a rule follower, but I want everybody to have the same rules.
I agree. It's on.
If we're gonna seek out sponsorship or not sponsorship, but advertisement money, then we should keep it.
The sign might be covering up the armpit image of the press box, so it might be a good thing.
So, yeah, they got two
Nice,
options.
Very nice.
Have we decided on a fee for advertising?
Yes, the fee for advertising is in the annual fee schedule. I want to say it's like $7.50 for the season.
$750.
Yeah.
For that little bitty.
It's because we create, in the sign policy, we
It's something.
create the signs so that we have control over the quality of the sign and where it's.
So in
made.
this
So
scenario,
that $7.50 includes
would
that.
that be that would need to be adjusted? But then you're
Yes.
gonna open up Pandora's box of, you can print your own.
And that's for a year.
Yeah, it's $7.50 for the year.
Wow.
But that is, we create the sign, like you give us what you want, but we're paying to have it printed so that we can control the quality.
If I say
There's
you
a
run into,
size in there too.
Yeah.
In that field.
but you run into another, issue there is, okay, we allow them to create their own sign and pay a lesser fee, so then now we have to do that for others.
And our ordinance and policy doesn't allow for that. So if they choose the route of not covering it up and wanting to pay for advertising, then we're gonna have to go
There's
down a
also an
different route.
agreement, there's also, like William said, there's an agreement in place for that sign.
There is not.
William said there was.
William, there's not an agreement in place for that sign?
Must have been one of those handshake things.
I could have swore we did, otherwise it could not have gone back up when we remodeled the tower 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes, nope, there's no agreement for that.
Well, then I guess the sign is trespassing.
Well, the sign, the direction I was given is that sign is to be included in the lease with the two sheds when we create that document. But that donated by creates a hiccup because then it leads towards advertisement. So I'll just send a letter to them that says, you can leave it this year, next year, we either need you to white it out or pay the advertisement fee. Everybody okay with that?
Well, if we don't have an agreement, I would prefer, and it's my opinion, if we have to get an agreement for the sheds, that we clearly spell out what is going on that press box and what we're going to allow, what we're not going to allow.
Yes, and that's part of what will be in the agreement, because like the press box is ours, and like what's ours in the press box, what's ours on it, what's the, who needs to maintain the sign that's on it, those types of things will all be in the agreement.
The only question we're talking about a sign being physically attached to the shed or press box, whatever you call it, okay? Suppose they don't have a sign up there, but they stencil something on it, what happens then?
Yeah, that's why I said the lease agreement will be pretty tight as to what is allowable and not allowable.
That's why we also started making the signs.
Yeah, that's what, yeah, that is why the advertisement lease policy leaves us with the control. All right, that's all I had under me.
All right. Brenda,
I have a message here from Sigich. From Sigich, and she, give us a presentation about our fiscal year 21 audit. Which the audit is in the packet.
yeah,
All right, everybody hear me okay? All right, that's loud. So as Brenda said, my name is Lindsay Fish. I'm a senior manager at Sigich. I've done the audit this year for the past couple of years as well. There were a few different reports we issued as a part of the audit. The one I'm going to focus on tonight is the annual financial report. I know not everyone has it in front of them, so I'll try to keep it fairly high level, so I don't lose you all.
Everybody did have it in their board packet now.
So the first thing I'm going to cover is our independent auditors report. If you have your report in front of you, it's on page 1. It's on Sigich letterhead. This just spells out our audit report. Second paragraph down, it notes management's responsibility for the financial statements. So just reiterating that management is responsible for the preparation and presentation of the financial statements. And then the next paragraph down says what the auditor's responsibility is, and our responsibility is to express an opinion on the financial statements. If you go to the next page after that, it includes our opinion on the second paragraph down. So in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects of modified cash basis.
Sorry, what page are you on? That's caught up.
Page 2.
Okay,
Page 2, number 2 on the bottom, so that might throw you off. I think you're not on the correct report. That might be the board communication. I'm on the
Okay.
manager report.
sorry.
They're all in there.
Page 2.
No, you got it.
No, no,
It's
no,
right
I'm-
below that.
It's gonna be this one when we get to
Yeah.
page 2.
It's on there too.
Page
There it is. So scroll this a little bit. I'm looking at the opinion paragraph. So as what I was saying on the opinion paragraphs is that we've issued a clean, unmodified opinion on the financial statement. So that's the highest level of assurance that we can provide. So congratulations to the village on receiving another unmodified opinion on your financial statements. From there, we'll go to page 3. This is your statement of net position on the modified cash basis. So what the modified cash basis is, it includes your cash basis transactions. It doesn't include items like accounts payable, accounts receivable, but it does pull in any long-term liabilities and any long-term assets. So the main thing I would focus on this schedule is the bottom of the page, your total net position. Your total net position for your governmental activities. So these are your tax-supported funds as well as your landfill fund. Your total net position was 17.5 million. Of that, about 10 million was your investment in capital assets, 256,000 was restricted, and you had 7.4 million of unrestricted net position. For your business type activities, so this includes your water, sewer, and garbage funds, you had 4.4 million of net position. This includes 5.4 million of investment in capital assets. This is good, your capital assets, less any debt related to the capital assets is that 5.4 million figure. And then you had an unrestricted deficit of about $1 million, so a total deposition of 4.4. If you go to page 4 and 5, is your statement of activities on the modified cash basis. I'm going to focus on the bottom of page 5. This just shows your change in net position for governmental activities and your business type activities. So for the year ended April 30th, 2021, your governmental activities had an increase in net position of about 472,000. Your business type activities had a decrease in your net position of about 200,000. Overall had an increase in net position of about 300,000. So pretty much break even around this year. 2 pages to 8. Page 8 is your statement of revenues collected, expenditures paid, and changes in fund balances for your governmental funds. You'll have your 3 governmental funds, your general fund, your motor fuel tax fund, and your tip fund. I'm going to focus on the third line up from the bottom, your change in fund balance. So your general fund had a slight decline in fund balance of 200,000. Your motor fuel tax had an increase of 162,000, and your tip fund had an increase of 2,000. From there, I'm going to go to page 11. Page 11 is going to be similar schedules than we just looked at, but this is for your proprietary funds, so your water, sewer, and garbage funds. For the year ended April 30th, 2021, the water fund had a decline in net position of about 700,000. The sewer fund had an increase in net position of about 500,000, and your garbage fund had a slight decline in net position of about 11,000. If you scroll a couple more pages, so page 13, I'm not going to go over these in detail. It's your notes to the financial statement. So what this is, I think there's about 13 pages of narrative essentially that talks about what your significant accounting policies are, and then there's a little more detail in here regarding your capital assets and your long-term debt. So once you get past the notes to the financial statements, it's page 26. So pages 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. These are your change in fund balance, and it has your budget versus actual schedules, so I'm not gonna go over these, but just kind of want to point that out, that you can look at the budget versus actuals. And then if you scroll back, the final page we have is page 33, which shows your debt service schedule for your IUPA loan. Just kind of wanted to point out those few areas. That's the majority of what I wanted to cover on the annual financial report. The only other thing that I wanted to mention, and you don't have to pull it up in front of you, but if you recall in prior years, we have a report that's called the communication of the material weakness and internal controls. In there, we have a comment about segregation of duties. It's not a new comment, it's something that's changed from prior year. Just wanted to point out, this isn't uncommon for a small municipality such as yourselves. But just wanted to give a reminder to the board, the best compensating controls you have over the segregation of duties is the board's reviews and approvals over financial expenditures and things of that nature. So just kind of wanted to plug that in there, that's to remain diligent in your reviews. That concludes everything I wanted to go over tonight. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Questions?
If not, Brenda has my contact info. If you think of anything later on as well.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you, Brenda and Sandy, for your help during the audit process. They're both always very accommodating and helpful and transparent and everything with us. So thank you for
I feel like
your
it's
help
getting
during the audit.
easier every
It does get
year.
easier. So, thank you.
Thank you. I have more, huh?
You do. I told you I put a lot of stuff under you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, the next one is a draft resolution amending our personnel manual for section.
Hold on. Can you hold too much noise? No, you're fine. Go.
For the hours, this is section 13 for the hours of work. We previously had park pavilion and flag raising. Well, we have that in there, but we kind of found this year, when the seasonal employees for the park get called in, it's just not for the pavilion, it's for the whole park. So we just want to change that wording, and everything is always requested by the supervisor. Same with the flag raising, just update that wording to match the top one.
Meaning they can do work anywhere in the park instead of just the flags. or-
Yeah, so we ran into an issue where
Yeah,
people
no, I
were
get
being
it.
called in for special use permits, or people which are just the same process as a park pavilion, so we just want to make sure that they're receiving the same compensation if they're coming in on their day off.
Any issues? Move on. Put it on the agenda.
Alright.
Consent.
The next thing, while we have this from Stone Bay, this is kind of updating our ACH agreement between us and Stone Bay. This is the ACH, like payroll, utility billing, things like that. So that's all it's doing is updating on, Stone Bay. It was, highly updated.
It was very outdated.
So if you look at that, that's what that is. It's something to the point. And that's all I have.
If there's no issues with that, we'll put that on the consent agenda too. Oh, you didn't download it, so yes, you did. No, there. That's the ACH Brenda
Yeah.
just talked about. What?
ACHs, I didn't,
It costs us about $90 a month,
yeah, it said 10 cents.
plus 10 cents for every check.
Whatever, I don't know how much.
Brenda, I will tell
Where is
you
that?
guys, just Brenda and I did a test run during the month of August, because we do pay $90 a month to be able to run our checks remotely too. And so we go to Stillman at least once a week, and so we did a test where we didn't do any deposits remotely, we did them all in the bank, to see if we could save that money. It
Still charging
took 45 minutes to get through the bank one day,
Oh,
so not worth our time.
No,
No, no.
Nope, but we tried.
I
So.
still have no idea how much they charge to do ACH. It's not-
Yeah,
Probably cheaper than printing a check.
Well,
and
the average fee is like $20, like between 14 and $20, right?
a month.
Yeah, well,
as
when
a
you
check.
print check, you have to have nickel toner and that's expensive. So it's probably cheaper to do it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all I had on Brenda's.
We're on Brenda's.
That's all I have to.
Okay,
I
Matt?
have for Brenda.
All right, just two project updates on page 2 at the bottom there, water tower painting. Mike Long from our office is gonna get with Brett and we're gonna get an inspection, 1-year inspection done on the tower. If everything checks out okay, then we can get the final retainage paid on that and close that project out.
just while we're there, Matt, I'd like to point out that that project was $450,000, not 3.5 million.
Yeah.
As the DJ Rants page likes to say. That also included repairs to the inside of the tank as well as the outside repainting. So we did it all together and actually saved money by doing it together. It gets kind of old when people have no idea what they're talking about, but yet still espouse their professional opinions. Sorry.
No,
carry on.
no, that's okay, that's okay. And then the last one, the Benny's Corner Market and self-storage, I believe the planning and zoning board approved the tentative plat. Probably the only thing there is that, as far as I know, Sandy, we haven't seen anything back on the revisions to the construction drawings for each site.
No, and the building inspector is currently working on the construction drawings.
Okay.
So it's kind of like I've got both of you working on
That's
them.
good.
So they rejected the first plans already, and so I'm just waiting to see back. But once they get back to their final stuff, I'll probably have you double check one more time that it didn't impact any of the drainage or the
Okay.
roads or any of that, because they don't look at those things, they're looking at the structures themselves.
Sure.
Hey, Sandy,
Yes,
who's looking at that?
the building inspector?
Have they sent a copy to Fire Safety Consultants for review?
I don't know that they have to, because they also do that review now. Do you want me to still separately send it? Because before we didn't have anybody who was capable of doing both reviews, of doing all reviews.
I didn't think our building company did sprinkler and fire safety.
I think they.
Code enforcement.
I think they might, because they actually train people, they train the code enforcers to do it, so I like to think there's somebody there who does it, but I will ask about that. And if not, then I'll send it over to fire safety.
I'll call you tomorrow and just follow up.
Okay.
That's it for me.
All right, that's done, that's quick. Other committees, community development events, Jen?
I had brought up and of how I should proceed with the celebrations that we do in the fall and the one for Christmas. Because the COVID numbers are rising in the younger kids, I think right now for the fall party, I'm gonna just continue to do as a drive-through. Just because I think it's better. Since it's tending to hit the younger kids. So that way it would
Okay.
not have any issues.
Are you still gonna do it on the same day you had planned before?
Yes.
Do you remember what that day is? If not, will you text it to me tomorrow so Sarah can start preparing some advertising?
They do actually. It October 16th.
October 16th. Do you have a time yet?
I'll probably do like a 2 to 4-ish.
How about I have her start the advertising with no time on
That's
it,
fine.
and then just let us know as we get closer?
That's fine.
Can I ask you about Halloween? Are we doing it on the 31st,
Yeah.
as always? Same time?
Yeah,
Same time as always?
Of course.
All right. I'll look it up.
So let's pretend COVID didn't exist. Do you like the drive-through method better than having the actual building? Is it easier for
I
you?
mean, you don't get to interact with the kids as much. But it is,
Probably more efficient for both
it
parties.
is, it's a lot less hassle, no cleanup.
So maybe it's just a new trend regardless of, the whole COVID thing.
I mean,
It's more efficient for parents that maybe didn't want to spend the afternoon, they can jump in, jump out, maybe get, maybe
or
it's
the
just.
fact that if their kid is playing football or soccer, they can come grab it and they don't have to worry about waiting. for them to be done or whatever.
And then youth kids, it's nice for parents, they don't have to tie up 2 to 3 hours, because they're just waiting, zoom,
That's
zoom,
the direction
zoom.
with your children, right?
You can make more than one party.
It's nothing to do with kids, does it?
But
It's not a dog, it's not a dog.
But it's for the kids, John.
It's efficient, that's what I like. Because COVID, I mean, to me, if it's more efficient for you in the village, and we don't have the Fergie's guys don't gotta come over, and the trucks and the
All
pumps.
right,
and all
we
that.
don't have to pay employees, I don't have to find volunteers.
It's a win-win for everyone then. That's just my question. So,
We'll put you up by the street. Keep moving, keep going.
Get out there, do it. Chris, what up?
You bet.
Anything further?
No, that's all I
Put his
have.
mask on.
Finance and William.
William, it's you.
I heard. I don't believe I have anything.
All
Brenda
right,
said no.
Parks and John.
Unless Nate sent something in, I don't have anything.
Nope.
We are gonna be meeting, I guess all the surveys done, so we will be meeting with Fairgram here, I was on the holiday clear, and we'll have some better numbers.
Any idea on how many fish died out there?
Oh, lots.
Why?
Well, I think Nate touched on that, I mean, with the weather, the lack of
All right, I mean,
rain,
I understand.
the
that,
algae.
because- Right,
Yeah.
And obviously, there's gonna be a lot of fish that are gonna die when
Right.
we start dredging the pond and improving it.
right,
So, and the fish have been really technically dying through the years because the pond's not deep enough, they can't go deep enough in the winter. Just all the progress, I mean, we're gonna lose all those fish when we start digging the pond, I'm sorry to redo it. And then
It's
we'll be back.
in here, what's oxygen?
The algae does it. Cuts down the oxygen.
well,
Fergie, are you spraying for mosquitoes, or will there be a few less mosquitoes this year?
We haven't had need to.
Same
dry weather.
So unfortunately, the fish, yes, it's just what happens, it's one of these projects that was put off for over 10 years, and
We're not blaming you personally.
And just as a reminder, we did a fish stock like 8 years ago, and it was very inexpensive to bring in 400 or 450 fish. Of those 400, I think like 250 or 275 were feeder fish, but there were like over 100 very good sized largemouth and smallmouth and variety of adult fish that are going to rehabitat the pond. It's not that big of a deal.
No, I don't feel it is either. It's just more emotion on DJ Rams.
Well, we had to do it before when the pond overflows and they
Yeah,
end up
the
in the
fish are gonna
waterway,
float away.
so it's, I mean, we've had to do it before.
I have caught a few fish that are native, they're not bad.
Not supposed to, it's
Just
a catch
kidding.
and release.
Just seeing if you knew our ordinance.
Oh, I do.
Is there something that says you can't?
Yes.
Of course.
I don't know, I don't fish, that just says that.
I don't
You
either.
don't think?
Yeah.
No.
Still
I'll
stand
stick
by,
with the pole.
I'll stand by the last name like worm, you don't go fishing. It just doesn't go
Well,
on.
you
this-
checked your ID, that'd be some joking ID, but yeah, the guy can't play with that. That's all.
Especially deep sea fishing. Somebody's gonna get a bright idea after a few beers.
That's all I have. After saying leave the door-
Well, Bill, I skipped over you. So ordinance enforcement, Bill.
Nothing new, we're doing fine. We're keeping abreast with most
Okay.
of the things that are going on. And, thanks.
Don't we do that separate vote?
Yes, but I do it through the same sound system, and I can't connect into our sound system. It's less than a tiny. So,
All right. Streets and ditches, Chris.
Somehow I got a discussion of open burning about the village.
that's very.
Oh. Go ahead, it's all yours.
Either that, or do you want to cover yours first? Because I don't know what the other one is.
Well, if you read
Oh, that's not his either, so go ahead.
Oh,
Okay. No, you go right ahead.
All right, Sandy can maybe fill in some of the gaps here, but basically, at one point in time, years ago, we used to burn out of our pile, from trimming trees, storm damage, stuff like that, basically just, for the most part, branches. And then I don't know how and what happened, we ended up stopping that. So we're basically just looking at possibly, I believe, changing or amending the ordinance, Sandy, is that correct?
So our current ordinance says that the village is only allowed to burn brush from the property in which it takes at the property in which it takes the brush from. Dan Bolin and I, the village attorney, and Fergie argued about this when we updated our burning ordinance a year or two ago. And Fergie was like, well, I've always been allowed to burn. And Dan said, no, this is what the ordinance says. Well, as you see in your board packet, we came across Ogle County burn ordinance, and Ogle County says, no, there's an exemption for municipalities. So I guess what Fergie and I are really asking is, does anybody care if we incur a little bit of cost, go back to the village attorney and say, Dan, hold on, this is what Ogle County says we can do. Is that truly an exemption that we can put back in our ordinance so that Fergie can burn in the burn pile again?
Well, how else are we gonna get rid of
I-
it?
Hold on, I got,
Oh, do you know the answer to this?
so just so I understand this, we wrote an ordinance that says there's no open burning in the community, in the village, correct?
No,
Except no, we said that the village itself as an entity, us ourselves, could not burn unless we could not burn trees, brush, limbs, whatever, unless it was on the property in which it was removed from. Because Dan Bolin said that is the only way that the law allows burning is that it has to be materials taken from the property. Ogle County appears to show that there's some exemption for municipalities that would allow us to have our burn pile again.
And Ogle County mirrors the state burn limits.
I will say I'm not a lawyer. But I did
I'm familiar with the language Dan's referring to. I was not aware or ever heard that is a state law. That's for like residents and citizens. Municipalities have typically been exempt, and that's the way we enforce it as well.
Yeah, and so I had that discussion with Dan Bolin when we updated our ordinance. I actually got a chain of emails discussing it because Fergie was like, no, and I was like, no. And Dan was like, yes, this is what we have to do. So anyway, I'd like to go back to Dan and be like, hold on, Ogle County saying that state law has this exemption. Can you please look and see if this is an exemption and then amend our burn ordinance to allow us to burn again?
Did we restrict it ourselves?
We did because Dan said that was the state
So
law.
we just have to amend our own law.
If Dan confirmed.
Well,
and if Dan's wrong, you should do it for free.
Yeah.
I can mention
If
it.
it's our,
Go ahead, William, I'm listening.
if it's our ordinance that says we can't burn, we have the authority to ignore our own ordinance when it applies to ourselves.
Discretion to enforce our
We do,
ordinance.
but really I just need Dan Bolin to confirm that that exemption really does exist and we can. burn.
Unless he's gonna fix it for free because it's his mistake, I just say move on and burn it.
Okay, can I confirm with Dan first that it's actually an allowable exemption?
Yeah, I'd like to make sure we're not breaking our law.
But we can also, we have the discretion of our ordinances.
I mean,
Yes, that's
basically,
fine, but I
here
want
is
to make
the-
sure we're not violating state law.
Right
and
here
that
is
there
the
is an
state
exemption.
EPA language right here. It says we are exempt from.
Yeah, so I just want to confirm with our village attorney.
Because
that
we pick
are
up a lot of
exempt.
stuff that doesn't
Well,
belong to any
it just,
property.
exactly, just to give everybody just a real quick history, I won't take up much of your time, we have research that Sandy and I've had this discussion many times, we have done our homework. For example, a 12-inch chipper is $1,200 a week. We used to do a couple of small fires a season, we only burn when it's green. We always have a water truck and employees out there to man a hose, if anything were to happen, we do it the right way. And usually we trim trees every year, we always have storm damage, debris, so we usually have a few fires a year, and that's about it. We don't burn every day, it's a couple times a season, and, we can't get rid of the mulch, because now we have a mulch pile from last year, when Nate brought in a chipper to chip a bunch of stuff, and nobody wants to mulch because it's garbage. So we have to pay to take it to the landfill. So we've done our homework. It's not just, hey, we want to burn. We checked pricing. We had a contractor last week. We said, hey, what will it cost to just haul all that brush that's out there, just get it out of here? He said, honestly, he goes, I'll call the landfill, find out what they're charging. He said, because to me, it's useless. He said, I'm not gonna chip it. There's no money in it. I'm just gonna load it and haul it because it's useless. So just so everybody knows, we have done our homework and it's, we look at dollars.
Thank you for,
So
I got some more if you want to.
I'm sure you do.
Anyway, so I guess,
Down there,
unless I hear otherwise, I'm gonna just confirm with Dan that it's allowable exemption for us as a municipality and then tell Fergie burn away.
Giddy up. Next,
Thank you.
Would the burn pile be open to residents if
No.
they drop off?
No,
no,
Marshmallows.
Is that, I was gonna say, a meteor.
It saves us some time, but yes.
There you go. Sorry, you looking at me?
yeah, you have something else on the
Yeah,
agenda.
well, you know, I went to that comment when they're changing out the lights, and our comment sent us a letter saying that they're gonna change out the street lights that are owned by ComEd that are in the village. Am I reading that correctly?
Mhm.
And there's no additional fee, right?
The only thing that I saw was the hiccup is that they'd asked us to sign a release that says essentially we won't go after state funds for the discount, or we won't come back to them about discounted rates or things like that, or funding for it to
Lights will be
change them
cheaper
out.
when they open.
Well, the electrical costs will be cheaper, right? I mean, they're basically paying for the light themselves, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
right, but we pay them for the light.
No, I know, the light and the fixture, or the fixture and the
Right.
expense. But your electrical costs may end up being cheaper. I don't know, is
I
that?
don't, they don't bill us for electric, they just bill us per light.
Oh, do
no,
they?
And they're not-
no,
Some of them.
some of them.
Well, the ones that are ours,
There's several.
Yeah, but
different
these aren't ours,
layers
the
of
ones
them.
that they're talking about changing out are theirs.
I
that we just
understand
pay
that,
the
but they don't
electric
want, so that's the ones we just pay them a set fee for.
Well, then they're not charging us for the.
But now they're telling us they don't have to come back after them for the discount.
Because
It would
How
be
much do
per-
they cost? They can't
per
cost that
unit.
much. to run.
They do, yeah, they do have.
I don't know, they're not charging us for it, so it's.
Then
I thought we, I
Basically,
thought that's
we're
why we
just-
got away from the ones
The
that
light-
finance,
light away?
we pay per unit.
You still have to pay for.
Light away, like burn away.
Who we pay?
Burn away,
Hold on.
light away.
What?
Yeah,
Brenda, I didn't hear that,
we pay per unit
right,
and there's still electric charges.
right, fine. But in basically speaking, they're not gonna charge us for the lights, but we're still gonna end up paying whatever our agreement says.
So here's where it is. It says that as a ComEd customer, I further understand that I'm entitled to the energy cost savings that result from the program. In
Right.
consideration of services provided by ComEd as part of this program, I agree that ComEd is entitled to 100% of the rights and benefits associated with the measures, including without limitation PJM products and all other attributes, credits, or products associated therewith under any regional incentive or federal, state, or local law, program, or regulation, and I waive and agree not to seek any right to the same.
Right, so why
So
would
that's
they,
what they're
well, they're
asking us.
doing it, why shouldn't they?
They get
any
the
rebate
kickback
that goes
when
They're
to them?
asking for the
Yeah.
rebates
I
on
don't-
whatever it is they do.
I don't.
Let 'em
know
do
what
it.
they do with that.
So there must be, well, because they used to go into businesses and put in all retrofit all the.
They still
do. They still do, yeah.
Because there was money in there.
They still do.
Well, the state and federal government paid
Yeah, so that's-
offering a rebate or an incentive.
And we get beautiful LED lights as a result.
There you go, if that they're brighter.
Is my light by comment or do we own that?
Is by your house. It's
It'll be
not-
for
Some of
the
the-
old ComEd on
All the
I'm all
ComEd
for it.
poles,
Oh,
those
wouldn't.
wooden ones are.
Oh, they are.
Are the crooked
Okay.
ones?
Is everybody okay with that being on the consent agenda next week for approval?
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Sometimes this is working and sometimes it's, repeat that, please.
Are you okay with the ComEd thing being on the consent agenda?
Yes,
sir?
yes, not
Okay.
a problem. with it.
Thank you.
Anything further, Chris?
Not that I know of, Fergie.
Utilities, Nathan?
All right, I only have a discussion on connection fees.
Yes, I emailed you about
I
this.
can't open my email.
Okay,
It's mad at me.
That's okay.
It's definitely a user error, but I don't know.
Years ago, huh? I don't care.
We,
Okay.
we, a long time, we established our connection fees based on usage. So all of our connection fees were set up, if somebody was gonna have a 4-inch or a 6-inch or an 8-inch, we were anticipating them using that much water all day long. We have somebody now who's looking at connecting a 6-inch,
8-inch,
8-inch for fire suppression.
yes.
Their usage won't be hardly anything, but they're looking at connecting that big because they need the fire suppression. They said they may be able to make it work on a 6, but they prefer to have an 8.
Yeah, and our fee schedule doesn't have an 8-inch fee. In talking to their contractor, I told them that I would talk to this board about allowing them to connect at a 6-inch fee, which is, I'd have to double check my email with me, Ethan, but I think it's $120,000.
Would this be somebody south on 251?
Yes,
So.
Uh,
along with
is
that,
it who I think it
we
is?
are very
Yes.
high on our connection fees, and the reason for that was, we figured if somebody was hooking up an 8-inch, they were gonna be using 8 inches of water.
They're making money.
Well, not that, but we wanted, our capacity is finite. We can only pump so much water every day, produce so much water every day, so we had to make sure that people connecting were gonna be paying enough that we could, build the system if needed.
You know,
Um,
connection fees were there to, once you collect that, goes into account because they're gonna use, well, it's on the water side, they're gonna use up water capacity. You gotta expand your system and that's what that fee is for.
Yeah.
So,
so this,
Keep in mind, this company also already paid tens of thousands of dollars to extend the water main for us as, in addition to the DECO grant.
so
So
we're
they,
looking for a little bit of,
If it's a fire hydrant part.
So- yes, they did.
Oh, you're
So
talking about
I
four.
would, we're not,
That's not private.
either way, we're trying to find a way to get them to be able to connect.
so just for example, William had me pull these numbers, I don't know, what, 2 or 3 years ago now, William, because our connection fees are really high compared to other people. And so just for some background here, Davis Junction connection fees for a 6-inch is 120,000. Stillman Valley is 36,000, Rockford is 19,000, Oregon is 2,400, and Winnebago is 81,000. And so what they're asking is for an 8-inch connection at a 6-inch cost, so their 8-inch connection would be 120,000.
But they're only gonna use 6 inches worth of product unless there's a fire, correct?
They will only.
They're
not
probably
even
only
use that.
using inch worth of product.
Yeah,
Is-
'cause-
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
No, I was just wondering,
separation.
does the ordinance say service size or meter size?
either way, we don't have 8 inches in there.
Yeah, I know.
if I recall, it's the connection to the main.
Yeah.
Typically, you're not
I
gonna,
believe it.
typically, you're not gonna put a meter on the fire suppression system. It's just a
I believe- I believe
non-metered
it's by
system,
meter
you know,
size.
so. So typically, you're just gonna, we might wanna take a look at the ordinance. If it is service size, maybe we switch the fee around to the meter size and just, because your meter's gonna be on your domestic.
Unless
Water
it
usage.
changed when it got uploaded, it was always by meter size. It was always by meter size.
Yeah, 'cause see, you wouldn't, if that was the case, if it was meter size, then it wouldn't impact that company if they're just putting in for fire protection.
They're willing to pay 120%.
They are
Well,
willing to pay.
We have to be
I mean,
fair.
we gotta do what's
So-
the law
They
says.
did- they just said it's fair.
Well, I understand, but that doesn't mean we go against our own ordinances just
Our
to make
ordinance
money.
doesn't say.
I believe it does. I believe it says meter size. Connection fees were always, because I used to write it. It was based on meter sizes. You and I.
Yeah.
I think it's meter size.
You
Well,
find it?
either way, then he's going to be at 120,000 because the contractor discussed metering the 6-inch and the 1-inch.
Right, it would be
Yes, but-
based off of the actual meter size, because usually you're gonna get so much flow through a certain size meter. So that's how you kind of determine potentially what their water usage is. and-
What? Underneath the ordinance, it does say water charges and billing charges, the permanent metered water system connections. Water meter connection charges. It literally says water meter.
Yep.
So it depends on what size meter they have. I agree with that. You don't want a meter fire suppression side.
Right.
Okay,
So we're
So
looking
whatever
at
size
maybe-
meter they need for the building,
6-inch size.
so a 1-inch size?
but they
I-
got, the cost is on them to get it to their building. But whatever size,
So
whatever they.
I hold on though, I have to back up. How do we account for the water usage then going through that line when we are doing water loss, when we are doing how much water we bill to the?
That's my question too.
I don't know, because we allow fire trucks to come up, hook up to our
We do
hydrants.
not though, they have to to call Fergie and
In,
notify
in
him.
an
so that he
emergency
knows.
situation, we're gonna make a call first.
They call afterwards and tell him.
No, they use, yeah, if they have to hook up, they hook up. I'm saying they usually let me know how much, so we can account for
So if you
water.
have to.
I
account
said,
for
I
that
said,
water-
you guys don't get to burn it down, and I can deal with it.
Again, and we do after the fact, but we have to know for water purposes, for the information I have to send the
There should-
IDA twice a year, how much water we have used, how much water we've created, and if we are giving somebody water or not metering that fire suppression system, that means our water loss number goes up drastically if they need that system.
The
or if
only
they have
time
to
that
run
system will use water is when they do any repairs to it, refill it,
But how do we know what those are?
they're minor. Especially in a building that size. I dealt with systems 10 times that size.
So I guess the question that I would have that maybe someone from the outside looking in might find a little confusing. And Matt and I were just talking about it, is we refer to these as connection fees, where you're not connecting a 3/4 or a 1-inch meter. You know, for example, our meters in our system are 3/4 meters.
Right. The pipe is the
The
connection.
pipe is the connection, not the meter. So looking in from the outside, that makes it a little confusing, if that even means
But,
anything
I
to
mean,
anybody.
They can put a meter on the 8-inch so that if they do have a fire, we'll know how much they used.
That's all I need.
I mean, that would make.
Yeah.
That way, in case, as long as the meter doesn't burn up in the fire.
And I've been in a lot of buildings where your fire suppression actually, I mean, they do have giant meters on them.
We were, I mean,
It's not always the case.
we were running a, what, 15-inch indoor fire suppression?
I
Okay,
mean,
so
I mean,
it-
there's some communities that do have, you know, it's all depends on, if you don't have a lot of buildings that have fire suppression to them, it might not be worth it, but, you know, some of your bigger communities that do have a lot of fire suppression, they have a rate structure for fire suppression systems. So, you know, some of them are based off the number of sprinkler heads in the building. There's different ways you can take a look at it, but there's a way to charge businesses that have fire suppression. And that fee kind of covers their water usage. It covers, you know, the capacity that they need to get the water out to their system. So they just pay a monthly fee for their fire suppression, whether they use it or not.
So-
It's kind of a,
Are we gonna charge them then the 6-inch fee for the 8-inch meter?
It says here, connection fees for meters larger than 6 inches will be determined based upon the maximum flow and whether the waterworks system will be capable of supplying the needed volume. Which I think everybody said that it can if it's for fire suppression.
Oh,
Yeah, well, they're gonna also have bathrooms and stuff, but yeah.
They don't use a lot of water.
Yeah.
No,
Some serious flow.
yeah, 8-inch water, 8-inch pipe will flow some water.
You know,
well, then
So,
I would be
I mean,
fine.
again, back to the question, are we willing to let them do the 6 to 8-inch connection, 6-inch cost?
Will we be having any other vendors looking for an 8-inch connection at a 6-inch cost down the road?
Well, right now, we do not have an 8-inch cost.
There is nobody else in our vicinity who I believe runs any pipes anywhere near that size.
So
Somebody
right now,
would have to
we're in
do.
a situation, our ordinance says that anything larger than 6 inches will be determined at the time.
That's fine.
So we're determining this now.
Sounds good.
And it's
We
not
can't
that
make a
they're
vote.
really using, I mean, inches of water.
So we're back to the 126,000,
120.
okay, 120,000 for 6-inch cost. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
We need to even go even lower.
Hold on, one at a time, we got William talking too. William?
$126,000, that's ridiculous. I think it,
It's $120,000, and I talked to the contractor, and they thought that that was a fair fee to meet us in the middle, because they're getting a 6-inch for an 8-inch thing, and I can have further discussion with you about that later.
Okay,
What does the fire district or, you know, say what we should charge or what their policy is?
they won't get involved. We're the authority having
They won't tell us?
jurisdiction.
they're probably.
No, they will not.
There'll be a building over there that's sprinkled. They like fire suppression.
Okay, but, okay, when there is a fire and it's used, and the fire department has to attach to the fire plugs, those,
What-
that's monitored, correct? That the flow of water that is used to put out that fire?
We get an estimated usage after they're done with the fire, all is said and done. A couple days later, they'll call Fergie and let them know, this is how many tankers we use so that we can keep track of water usage.
So what, the only thing we are concerned about is that they don't go and use any water that they're not gonna pay for, correct?
Correct.
Yes, but we've solved that issue. So if you're okay with them paying a 6-inch price for an 8-inch meter,
I think we better think, hope we make the right decision on this. We want the business, we want to
Yes.
grow,
yes,
we want everyone to be safe.
yep,
And that's we can monitor it and do our utmost.
and it's adding a new water customer to our
Yeah.
base, so, yeah.
That's right.
Towards the end of the line too.
Okay,
It's even better.
at some point, there will need to be a vote on this. For now, I just needed to be, kind of feel out you guys so that I could get back to the individual and the contractor. So I'll
Okay,
let
so
them
before the
know.
question is raised, somebody's else gonna ask, if they put in a 3/4 or 1-inch meter, are we charging them for that as well?
Yes,
Okay. Perfect.
Yep.
Everybody's okay with that as well?
Yes.
Okay,
it is.
comparatively, yes.
All right, I got something else too.
Oh,
Yeah, all right.
Take it.
It was brought to I was reached out by a resident this about 2 weeks ago. He was driving through the neighborhood. He recognized, or not really recognized, but saw someone on a friend of his properties. And he confronted that person. Person happened to be one of our trustees. One of our trustees, from my understanding, he asked what the trustee was doing, not knowing who the trustee was. And he asked who you were. There was some type of altercation that happened. And once, I guess it was resolved or whatever, the resident left the situation and then the cops were called on them or some other situation. The reason I'm bringing it up is that the village resident didn't feel that the person identified themselves on the property who was wandering around the property at that time, felt that was wandering, trespassing on its friend's property. So I feel that I'm bringing this up to let us know that maybe we need to be a little bit more diligent or careful about when we're going out and doing village duties and be respectful of the village residents' property while doing so.
Okay, I can address what you're talking about,
Okay,
and we want to get this straight.
sure, we sure do.
The trustee was Motisi, okay?
Okay,
I was in full uniform.
full uniform.
I had on, now wait a minute.
I'm just trying to identify what your uniform is.
Say that again, you want to know what I do?
Identify your uniform?
Yeah, my shirt that I got on here.
Okay,
This is Davis Junction, okay?
okay,
And I was over there looking at the alleged violation. And this guy pulls up in a truck. And he wants to know what I'm doing. And I was only in the driveway. Well, first of all, what I'm doing, it's not for the public to know what I'm doing right now. There's a chain of command where we divulge information like this, okay? Now, what I was investigating is between.
Residents aren't
me
subject to chain
and
of
the
command.
resident. It's nothing for the public yet, okay? And I asked this gentleman, he asked me to identify myself. I told him over 3 times who I was and what my job is, okay? And I said, sir, that's the only thing I can tell you. And I said, may I have your name, please? He says, well, why? I said, you know who I am? I said, I want to know who I'm talking to, okay? And he refused, and he sped off in his truck. And he said, well, I'm calling the people because I know them. Well, I have no control over that. And I happen to know the people, and they have to be very nice people. So anyway, he sped off. Anyway, this guy would not cooperate with me, and I'm alarmed and disturbed. You know, when you tell somebody who you are over 3 times, okay, he should take heed and respect it. This guy didn't. So then when I asked him, he speeds off. So anyway, I wanted the county to know that we're out there doing our business, our job, okay? And people have to be able to respect us when we're doing our job out there, okay? And I was disrespected, I was not respected. Now, consequently, I don't know if the owner of the properties were home or not, but they did come out because the main city was gonna call them, and the people came out. And they know me, I know them. And they stand and told them what was going on. And explained to me, and I explained to them, I said, this is all or nothing, there's no violation here. And I said, you're fine, everything is fine. I said, but the fellow that left wouldn't identify himself. And I asked, and I said, would you like to tell me who the fellow is? And they said, no. And of course, you can't make people tell you who someone is, okay? So I called the county, because if they get a complaint that someone's walking around, they know who it is, it's us. And the county came over, I explained to them what was going on, and they said, yes, we are doing our due diligence when we're out there, we identify ourselves, we're doing our job. We're not sneaking around in the middle of the night, okay? Everyone knows who we are. So I called the county and they said, that's great. And they wanted to go over and make sure that this guy was not going to come back and cause trouble for anybody. There's a certain way of doing things. And this fella didn't didn't do that. Now, I don't know where you got your story, where you got your information. Who was beefing to you?
A concerned citizen reached out to me.
Forget the concerned citizen. Tell me, Nate, tell me, because I want to rectify everything. I want everything straight. When we're out there doing something, we just can't have people complaining and making our village look bad.
Okay.
I can't have that. I don't want that.
Okay. The point of what I brought up today is that maybe we need to recognize that we are a service to our residents. And through that service, ordinance enforcement is one of those
Correct.
services we offer.
Correct.
Does not give us the power or the right to trespass on anyone's property. And when a citizen brings to attention that he feels concerned about what you're doing,
Yeah.
maybe there's a better way of resolving an issue than what transpired that evening. I was not there.
Yeah.
I'm only giving you hearsay of what a concerned citizen brought to my attention. And I'm just bringing it to
How
the
are we
village's.
trespassing?
My understanding of the situation is that you were farther into you even admitted you were in the driveway. I don't know
I'm
where
on
that
our portion
entails
of
in
the driveway, not
I
there.
don't know how you were taking pictures of whatever you were doing in
That's
there,
correct. That's
but
correct.
I appreciate our citizens
Yeah.
stopping some
Sure.
elderly gentleman taking pictures in someone's yard.
Yeah.
I mean, I would appreciate anybody stopping a resident or non-resident that was in my yard taking pictures. And this situation is something that could have been handled differently
Right.
than it
How
was.
am I gonna handle it differently when I identify myself at least 3 times? And he doesn't want to identify himself. What I can say, I don't know what to say.
I think you're kind of missing what he's saying. I can speak from my own experience, and maybe Sandy can. When I did ordinance enforcement, the last thing I wanted to do was go on somebody's property and get my ass kicked or something like that, because I don't believe we have the authority in our capacity as elected officials just to trespass to see if a car has a license plate or whatever. Because I can remember many times through the years, meeting with a neighbor that lived behind them who may or may not have been the complainant, saying, hey, can I come into your house? Can I look out your patio door to verify this complaint? I can think of a situation with a pool across from a former mayor where I went into an employee's house who happened to live next door, so I could look over because I knew better than to physically trespass on someone else's property. And this all stemmed from a simple little incident when when we had some of our employees reinstalling census stuff on the side of the house, and residents really weren't crazy, especially in this dawn and age of cuckoo birds coming onto their property. And I think if it's a grass violation, you can verify that without pulling in a driveway. If it's an expired tag, for the most part, you should go to verify that without pulling in the driveway unless the car's covered. Then if the car's covered, it's really no concern of yours at that point. So I mean.
My understanding that this vehicle was on blocks is the reason for the violation.
Yeah,
I don't know for certain, this is a hearsay from what I was understanding of the situation.
But either way.
Something that could have been videoed or taken pictures of from the street without any disturbance of our residents.
Bill, I'd be concerned about your safety and just stay off private property. That's my thoughts.
This is the reason I bring this to our attention.
Okay. There is open view and plain view for probable cause to see if there's a problem. Now, I remember working with our council, okay, when we had the mold house, if you remember that, okay? And I said, well, let's just have a marching up your house, stuff like that. And they advised what we can do and what we can't do. And I never violated any laws. I did not trespass. And I'm the one calling the county too. Now, if I'm a trespasser, they would take care of me. You know what I mean? They would arrest me. So I'm trying to do our job properly and not break any laws.
I still have to go back and agree with Nate, because in order for somebody to drive down the road and physically stop, it had to look a little out of the ordinary. Had you just been parked in the driveway, the average person's not gonna say, oh, I don't recognize that car, I'm gonna stop. However, if you were out of the vehicle trying to lift up the car cover or walking around the property like a burglar, I see why they stopped. The person who stopped because, and I would agree with Nate, it was because it was out of the ordinary. Which I think speaking for myself as part of this board, stay off private property, because one, we don't need you to get hurt. We don't want to see you get hurt. And two, we don't need the liability if we are doing, I don't want to argue that issue. Stay off the property. It can't be that ultimately important if it's an expired tag or the grass is too long. There's no need to bring us problems. And I'm done with it. That's my thoughts. Stay off private property.
Where was my vehicle parked? No one asked me there. Parked on
Well,
the
they
street.
were more concerned about where you were.
I worked on the street. I did everything properly, and I also called the county for a double check,
Well,
okay?
I do know the gentleman that stopped. He is a very good person.
Yeah.
And I commend him for stopping at a friend's house when he saw something that didn't look right.
Yep.
And I would say I agree with John as well, that if you can
wouldn't
do it from
stop
the
it.
street, do it from the street. Even if you know the people, don't go on their property, because you have the option that you have the problem at that point of them saying, well, how did you get this picture?
And to get back to say you have the right to do that, if we as a board decide collectively as a group that we don't want the ordinance enforcement officer going on private property and verifying ordinance, we do have that right. And I believe the mayor has that individual right to say, hey, moving forward, Bill, I don't want you on private property, I'm gonna take away your committee. I don't want the harassment of you getting hurt.
We're not harassing anybody.
No.
This whole thing out of context and
Well, I
causing
think John's right, though. We
We
don't
wanna
want you,
resolve
we definitely don't want you
We're
getting
concerned
hurt.
about your
Right.
safety.
Okay. Now,
Right?
okay, now,
That really is.
the next question I have, okay, is that I have no problem with every ordinance violation that I come upon or I receive. Before we take action, I bring it before this board and they make a decision. I'm really fine with that. I would go along with anything that the board wants to do. Now, do we want this to be this way? I'm more than happy to do it.
I'd like to.
All I would say, Bill, is try to be a little more conscious.
That's my concern.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I did not
All right.
put myself in a
Can we move on,
dangerous
Nate?
situation.
Nathan?
And that is it. That concludes my soapbox for this evening.
All right, we have anything on the unfinished business?
Oh, give me a marked vehicle, that might help.
That's not unfinished business.
What?
It's awesome.
What's that?
Definitely not in the budget.
Nothing on the budget.
Hey, well, you got trucks, put
Jen,
some
you
signs
hear
on.
from Verizon? Jen,
Jen,
Yeah, that's it.
Chris is asking you a question.
did you hear any more about Verizon?
No.
All right.
So there's no update on Verizon.
I think Eleanor Lease is still in their court.
They're still, as far as I know, with Bill, they haven't responded back to you either, have they?
William, you haven't received a response to LR? No, I know exactly.
Not from the response that I sent them, since he submitted the FOIA afterwards.
Okay, yeah, Nathan talked to the board about that previously, so.
Okay, we have no public. I'll make your guys evening tonight. We're not gonna do a closed session. We're gonna put that till next week. Before we adjourn, I do have a resident who has called. They're having a very large gathering this coming weekend for Memorial Service. Right at the curve, or just after the curve, on Prairie Moon.
Her father. I don't remember the name.
This is a Memorial Service. And they're asking just in the name of creating better parking, if they can park on the lot for the old house.
For the day.
Yes, that, now, besides that being your decision, I'm sure I would want your input on that, and I will allow that as ordinance.
And this is not my opinion, that's why I'm asking here.
Well, Bill has voted. It sounds perfect.
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it, that's fine.
I too.
They're trying to be safe about it because we know how that
So
area
we
gets
change
congested?
them, is that what we're gonna just provide them an
For the
hour
day.
for the day, and then we'll put that after everyone's pulled out?
We hiring, are we paying an employee call out time to take those chains down and put it back up?
When
We
is-
taking them
are they
down on
locked on
Friday,
or
putting them
bolted
back on
Yeah, well,
Monday.
I think the weekend would be acceptable.
They might be bolted on.
Take them
It was
off
years
before you
ago
go
we did
home
it,
Friday.
So I can't remember.
If it has
if
to
we
be
had
on,
locked
we'll take it
on.
off.
Before you go home Friday. or whatever.
I don't think there's any special needs to come out and do anything off of work time to do something.
Or
Yeah,
give
there needs to be
Nathan a
able to
key,
do
he
it.
can walk right
I
down.
just can't remember how.
I'm not gonna want to do it myself.
I've got the,
Or we gotta pay somebody an hour to do it. That's a big deal.
I don't think that's a good idea. Someone will call for trespass.
I've got some new radio. Okay,
DJ shit.
Most-
anything further for the board members?
No.
All right,
Motion to it.
Thanks.
Tommy, motion adjourned, Chris seconds.
All right,
Any roll call? We have to roll call.
sorry.
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Chris,
Back.
William,
Absolutely.
Jen, Bill.
Yes.
What time is it?
It is 17, we are adjourned.